because it's really about like one of the things that we've been trying to articulate more is how we can like maximize your existing investments in your MarTech stack. And I feel like if you look, you can go all the way back to like, data ingest for a brand. And maybe that goes down through Google and then into Pega. And then, we deliver through the brand channels and then the customer sees it.
Right.
But through that whole, just the data alone travels through sort of a complex path even before it hits Pega, right? It's like, could be onboarding offline data into the online data world, like through a live ramp, gets in, maybe goes into a CDP. CDP's hooked up to us. There's a lot of ways that data can even flow through, and that's kind of the foundation of a good customer experience is like up to the minute, accurate, fresh data.
Right. So and by the way, this is not fully baked. It's by no means written in stone yet, but we're trying to look at ways of bringing some kind of enlightenment, if you will, to these technologies that's more purpose and results driven rather than just technological efficiency.
Yes, I like it.
So it's a different story.
Yeah.
Which I think you heard it here, is going to resonate with the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I could be completely washed out.
Why aren't there any measurement of like better together stories?
That's kind of what this is. Yeah, it doesn't really exist out there.
Yeah, it doesn't for
except
sure.
as like the Pega case studies or the whoever's case studies that are,
Absolutely.
They're objective, but they're not really objective.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're headed. That's what we're building out here.
It's very cool. I think it's desired.
I'll take your critical input. You can hate it, and I'll still love you.
I'll be honest. I promise.
Wait, now that you said it like that, like I don't want to know. Never mind. I'm turning off the recording. Anyway, let's talk about Pega some more.
Great.
So you have a giant and growing remit.
Yes.
That I think like that's another couple of conversations because it's literally like, wow, it was big before.
Yes.
Like MarTech is, what did you say, 15,000 in the map right now?
15,000 plus apps out
and
there. Yeah.
And ad tech, if you want to carve that out or layer it on, is its own thing.
It's a big part of that.
It's giant.
It's giant. And then you've got, the media ecosystem and all that you're not really they're not on that.
No.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
So you're kind of intel, recon, figuring out what the competitive landscape looks like.
Yeah, we're just always trying to understand, customer behavior, market behavior, just how can we be the best advisors for our clients. And that's, part of the reason I was hired here at Pega. And even though my remit's changed a little bit, it's still a passion for me to know what's coming next.
It's a relentless curiosity.
Yes.
That's probably at the core of why we get along so well.
Plus
all the
you're
other
right.
stuff.
Yeah. Because another thing with ad tech and MarTech is we create something here and then somebody starts using it in a completely different way than it was intended to be used and find out that it's like amazing for this other thing.
Right.
Countless times I've seen this. So that's another fun part of it. It's like very innovative, creative sector.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be thinking after this conversation about how we could work together because I talk to a lot of technology providers out there. That's kind of what I do. And I don't really do it because I need to provide like advisory services, although we're starting to do that. It's more because I think my value to the market is understanding what the landscape looks like.
Yes.
Like I just got to know who's out there. Where do you fit?
Yeah.
What do you do here?
Totally.
And I feel like that's kind of answers some stuff there. So my people be talking to your people.
Yeah, great. Set it up. Call it in.
Right. Anyway, back to get us on the rails. We need to get back on the rails here. I'm looking at you like
What, you want me to put you on?
Yes, isn't that your stated role? Like, keep us on the rails.
On the rails.
Right.
Mike
Okay.
G.
Sorry. Okay. Good job.
Thanks.
Because now I'm doing it. On AI integration, you're gonna love this. It sounds so professional.
Yeah.
Because you and I would never speak like this. We would never. But I have notes. You've positioned AI integration as no longer experimental. What kinds of AI use cases do you believe are most valuable right now in marketing, and which ones are still overhyped?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's valuable is the thing that's like overhyped in a sense, which is dynamic creative optimization. You know, it's using Gen AI to create, you know, marketing messages and interactions and things. We see a tension between people that really want to clamp down on their brand, and so don't, you know, trust AI fully to execute the creative things that they need it to. But that's like the most exciting thing. The most exciting part of AI for marketers is scaling content and scaling marketing and scaling messages. But I think it's also the sort of, you know, you have to be a brand that's willing to take a little bit of risks, like a calculated risk, and sort of not have a super tight hold over your brand.
Right. I think it's an interesting moment in that respect because Gen AI creative it's almost like it's a must-have. You can't compete at scale and speed if you're not using it somehow.
Right.
And I think a lot of brands are coming to terms with like, but wait, we have our brand standards, like you're saying.
Yes.
And what's happening here? Like in my use of the Gen AI tools that I use, like drift is wild. It's just nuts. Like, and I loved what Alan was saying on stage today with his chess game.
Yeah, the right AI.
Absolutely right. This is completely wrong.
Yes.
Let me do this and get it exactly right this time.
Yeah,
and I'll waste 2 hours trying to get this stupid like chat thing to do what it's supposed to do when it's very capable, but it's just not listening.
Yeah.
So there's all that drift to contend with. That's an interesting thing right now.
Yeah, and you know, we're starting to see, and like for example, in Blueprint, you can, you know, import your branding and see what creative might look like. But we're starting to see brands that do say, okay, I'm going to upload our brand guidelines and our tone and voice, and like, let's see what AI can do with it. So we do have those, you know, those are the first in people that are experimenting, and now they're in a great place to actually differentiate because they were early adopters of that, and now they're actually going to have AI embedded into their entire marketing strategy.
You can optimize for NPS, and that's good. You can optimize for CSAT, also good. You can optimize for loyalty, and that's good too. But here's the thing. If you're not optimizing for total customer value, for total customer profitability, then you're just optimizing for output, not the bottom line. Here's the truth. If your strategy isn't building better customers, more frequent, more loyal, more deeply bonded, then it's not a strategy, it's a performance. At Customerland Studio, we help brands find the value, find the opportunities, the force multipliers hiding inside the customer relationship. And then we help them optimize for scale, for yield, for profit across the entire relationship. Because the other thing we've learned, the only strategy that actually matters is the one that makes your customers more profitable. Customerland Studio, to make better customers. Go to customerland.net and click on the studio. I'm curious as to your views on how people, let's just say people in organizations, are working through their AI trust issues.
That's such a good question too. Yeah. So, I mean, I think part of it is you don't trust what you don't know. So within Pega, we have we have our own marketing organization, and they've done a really great job of training or offering training and education to the rest of the company on what AI products are available to us, how to use them, how to get the best outcomes. Some of those products we sell to other people. Some of them are just ones that we use for our own purposes. But it's, we are enabled to use it. We are enabled to try it, learn it. They sometimes gamify it.
Cool.
And I think it makes us all more efficient individually because we then can use these tools in a proficient way, and the fear is not there. There is a fear, though, I think, for marketers of AI taking away their job. But
not entirely unjustified.
It's not unjustified, but it's also, there's a partnership to be had with AI where it's making you better at your job. Of course, there are probably certain functions that are going to go away, right? But, you're a writer. I'm a writer. You ask AI to write you something. You don't then take that thing and put it out exactly as is. You're like, is this right? Yeah. Does it sound good? Does it sound like me? There's still such a human element to all of this. There is a lot of things that could go wrong, of course, but I don't think we need to have the fear dialed up so high. I think we can figure out how to partner together with AI to drive better outcomes.
Completely agree, and well said. I was looking at a post, it was either today or yesterday. Rick Rubin, famous producer.
Oh, yeah. Music.
Yeah. And he wrote a book, which is all over the place now, but somebody interviewed him on AI and creativity. And I'm going to blow it because I wish I had the exact words because it was really well said. It made you stop and think. Essentially what he's saying is that if you're a true creative, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see that on the audio, but then creativity is part of you.
Yes.
And this is just another tool that enables you to do what you would be doing anyway in some lesser state.
Absolutely.
It elevates what you can produce. And, again, better words from Rick Rubin, but that's the idea. And I think it's brilliant. I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, ChatGPT started showing you how it was thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Do you remember seeing that at all?
Well, I went off ChatGPT in favor of, I don't want to play favorites or something or endorse something. This is not an endorsement. But I went over to Copilot. I've been using Copilot.
Do you like it?
And it's okay. And then
others are available.
Yeah. Then we have actually, can I talk about Intern Iris?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can edit it. It's okay.
Okay. We have an AI intern at Pega, and it's really great because, with ChatGPT, you're interacting with it. You have to be interacting with it to get it to work. With Iris, you can send Iris an email hey, Iris, bring me back 10 stats on customer experience in 2025. And then Iris goes away, you email Iris, maybe you switch over to something else, you're working on your deck, and then the next time you check your email, Iris has returned with the stats and the sources.
I love Iris.
So Iris is actually what I use the most, more than anything.
I think the distinction is as well, just to be clear, she's called Intern Iris.
Yeah.
Very specifically. And everyone in the company needs to be aware when you're asking for help with any work from Iris, she is an intern. So you check the work as if an intern has done it.
Yes.
Smart. It's really smart.
Yes. And here's another good point, which is that in early days, the intern makes some mistakes, right? And that's why we have oversight over the intern. And that's a really important distinction as well, which is okay, Iris is not ready for her intern job yet. She needs to go back to college.
Right.
And then,
repeat the
yes,
module.
Exactly.
Repeat the module.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get some good sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
and again, to the partnership AI point, Iris is an intern. She's meant to do tactical manual work for us so that we can do more strategic stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing as well, is that there's the whole governance issue. So we all are very aware as well, is that if you're going to email Iris, the intern, think about what information you're giving her. So, you don't just email her any old thing, confidential company information. So you do treat this as an intern in the information that you give and the information that you ask for and how you check it.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's built in, like you have your own guardrails. You've been given these guardrails to work within as a user of Intern Iris.
It's very collaborative as well, because as well as being able to interact with the Intern Iris, there's also a WebEx group where you can share best practice.
Yep.
You can talk to everybody else. Everyone in Pega has access to that, so that we can talk to each other about what we found out, where it felt like she might have been hallucinating.
Oh, yeah.
She's a bit slow today. Was she out on the lash last night? I don't know.
Wait, what does that mean?
Did she have a few beverages last night?
Some babies.
So there's a lot of chat that goes on in there as well about Iris and how she's performing on the day.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, when you work at a company that sells AI-enabled products or AI-powered products, you're more responsible yourself with AI because you know what can go wrong. So even if I see the source, I click on the source because I want to make sure that it's being pulled correctly and that I'm not citing some, one stat was from PwC from 2010. I don't want to be using that stat. That's not correct.
She gives you a reasoning document as well.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing at ChatGPT. I have to go back and say, okay, give me your sources and citations. I got to see everything you've pulled from to see this. Yeah. But I did notice, at one point when it was showing you kind of how it was reasoning in its processes, which I thought was brilliant. I mean, to address kind of trust issues. Yeah. Now you can see what I'm doing kind of behind the curtain.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't do that anymore.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Maybe I don't, I didn't qualify for the upgrade, or it's
maybe
just
not.
you know what? I'm tired of showing you what's behind a curtain or something crazy. So the highest utility right now is the same as the most hyped AI in your view.
Yeah, I mean, for marketers, I think scaling content and making sure it resonates with your audience is probably the critical use case that is going to have to be embedded in your strategy. And I think it's also going to be more of a long tail of organizations that can adopt that fully. I bucket marketers into 3 buckets. So transitional, traditional, and transformational. So traditional marketers are doing mostly human-led labor. They're still running just traditional campaigns like batch and blast. Transitional are partway there on their journey, right? They're doing maybe dynamic customer journeys. They can take advantage of streaming data. They're more down the path of full transformation. And then transformational are 100% bought in on self-optimizing AI-powered decisioning, understand that they need to be leading the pack, and their next steps are really just to expand how many use cases they're using it for in their business.
I'd love to know more about because I don't really see many of those people who are at the transformational stage in any, not just marketing, but wherever. No, seriously, this is great fun. And there's so much legitimate to talk about.
Know.
I knew this was going to happen.
I know.
Today I'm here with Rebecca Miller, who is Senior Manager of Product Strategy at Pega. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Really excited to be here.
So as titles go, Senior Manager Product Strategy at Pega. And what I know about Pega, there's an awful lot going on here. So what areas, plural, do you focus on? in your work here?
Yeah, that is a great question. So at Pega, product strategy sits within our go-to-market team. So I would say that I kind of have a dual role between product strategy as well as product marketing, where I take what the product team is going and building and translate that into stories and messaging for our clients, for our partners, for our analysts, and get their feedback and hopefully kind of have a feedback loop where we are able to influence the roadmap as well as our vision for the future. So it's a pretty cool job.
Yeah, it sounds like that literally the best job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're a developer and you love that kind of stuff, that sounds like the best job.
Yeah, I've been at Pega for about 7 years. And
always the same kind of roles?
Always in the product marketing and product strategy space, but I would say just with the nature of technology, my job looks completely different than it did in 2018.
So what did it look like? 2018, think back, pre-pandemic, oh gosh, there were no technology crises happening at that point, or very few anyway. So what was it like then? What's it like now?
So in 2018, I feel like we were talking about AI at Pega quite a lot, but it was a lot around natural language processing and AI chatbots and our customer decision hub. And I think that we were pretty ahead of the game in terms of just our AI capabilities, and we coupled that with our workflow automation. So I was spending a lot of time kind of talking about NLP, trying to get people more comfortable with self-service, because we know that customers don't always love self-service.
I've heard
myself.
this.
Yes. And now I really feel like, as we all know, AI has just exploded in a whole new way. And I feel like Pega is just perfectly positioned for it. So when Gen AI emerged 3.5 years ago, all of a sudden it was like this, like Alan said this morning, this symphony where we were able to take kind of the business rules and the statistical AI that I had learned at Pega, and then really take the creativity of Gen AI and apply that in customer service. So a lot of the conversations we're having now are with clients on how they can become more autonomous. So how they can automate more work out of the contact center and closer to the customer. And I think that there's more trust in digital channels. I think that we still have to do a lot of work there.
Do you? Because I want to talk about that. That seems to be something that comes up on my radar a lot too, is just like, adoption doesn't really happen as fast as it could for a lot of different reasons. And it seems to me like, if you really peel back a couple of the layers, it kind of boils down to trust.
100%. And if you have one bad experience as a consumer, you're done.
Yeah,
I feel like
right.
you are like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So customer expectations are rising, and they expect that you're going to get their questions answered the first time. So I think that there is this hump now with Agentic AI where we're hearing about, all these agents that are doing work on behalf of companies. But the problem with that is that without governance and control, these agents are basically going out and providing a bunch of different answers to different customers. So that's not super beneficial either. But when you, again, kind of apply that workflow automation with your agentic AI in a predictable way, you can really provide a seamless experience across any channel, which I think is kind of what customers want. I don't know if every customer actually wants to call in and talk to a customer service agent.
No, I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
That seems to be a thing as well. So I think I started following Pega in 2019, and I spoke with somebody here whose name Robin Collier. I don't know if he still works here. But brilliant guy. And we were talking about this idea that Pega was developing systems that could deliver empathy at scale, which at the time was like, come on, can't really do that. I mean, nobody's going to believe it. First of all, it's fake empathy. It's not real. And, the more we talked and the more I saw how you were approaching this, I became a believer because I got to see it. But what was interesting to me along the way was that, and again, I've been kind of following from the sidelines for quite a while, was how well, like what you and Alan were saying, the development of AI and LLMs has played into your development of workflows and how you approach those to kind of get you to this place. And this interview is not meant to be a series of softballs that I just kind of throw your way. But I talk to a lot of technology providers. Almost every one of them has got an AI thing because you must. And some of them are really interesting and robust and well done and well thought out. But I don't recall, I can't really think of anybody where the times and the technologies kind of just came together in this seemingly perfect kind of meshing of the gears that seemed to have happened with Pega, just to get you to this point. Because it all seems like, okay, well, we're here. Of course we're here. We planned on being here. We created AI to make us here, or whatever it is. So there's trust on the consumer side, because as you said, if you have a bad experience, forget it, I'm out.
Yep.
Super low tolerance and super high expectations. But on the corporate side, the people who are buying these technologies, there's also, and I think there's lots of data to back this up as well, there's lots of kind of trepidation around, like, do I just jump in head first into the AI-driven solutions, or how can I establish guardrails or safety nets, or is it just strong governance? But what do I do? Like, because the downsides to getting AI wrong at scale are pretty significant. So do you have those conversations?
Absolutely. I think that everyone is having those conversations. And I was at a conference earlier this year in March where it was a expert in agentic AI who was speaking. And the core message was be patient. So everyone is really excited around agentic AI, but the reality is that it is going to take time. This is a seismic shift, and we're seeing the beginning of this transformation of the front office and customer service, but it's not going to happen overnight, and we don't necessarily expect it to, especially with enterprises that have such complex processes. You want to make sure that you have control. So at Pega, we don't encourage our clients to do everything at once. We really do suggest that they focus maybe on one process or a set of processes at a time, so they can use tools like Blueprint, from a design standpoint, if they have an idea or if they have a legacy customer service application, and rethink that in an expedited way. And then they can actually preview that through our agentic self-service and see it in, real life without actually having to, spend countless months trying to build this. So we really want to provide kind of an experiential mode of understanding self-service and understanding the power of agentic AI, so they can really decide, where should I actually inject agentic into my processes? Maybe it's in claims, for example, or I need to, my employees are spending a huge amount of time right now summarizing calls, or just those types of things. And you can automatically, inject our Gen AI capabilities pretty quickly because of our center out business architecture. So it's a lot easier to, again, kind of build that workflow and then apply it to your different channels without having to rebuild.
Interesting. Beginning of the conversation, you were talking about how it might be playing into the employee experience and what's happening in front office, quote unquote. Considerable amount of the work that I do and we do at Customerland happens to fall into the CX space. And, EX is always, I can't say always, but up until very recently, EX was kind of always acknowledged, but never really treated as, a front seat at the table.
Yeah.
It was over here behind the CX guys. And pandemic started to awaken some people to that. But, and the applications for AI within CX are wide and, pretty exciting. But let's talk a little bit about the applications for AI, especially as Pega sees them in the EX world.
Yeah. And your point around employee engagement is so important. And I think that, businesses need to be focused on that, because the reality is that if your employees aren't engaged, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Like, it's the heart of your business. Gallup Research did a survey last year, and I think they saw a 21% decline in overall employee engagement. That's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it's not just an HR metric. So, like, why is that? Well, think about all the things that employees have to deal with. There's a lot of legacy systems. There's inefficient processes, maybe a lack of training, or just they have to get up to speed really quickly. And then they're having to be bogged down with so many manual tasks that they are basically getting burnt out. And you really do need to consider, how can we change the paradigm for that and actually use some of these agentic and Gen AI tools to improve employee engagement. So that's really our focus at Pega.
How do you navigate that on the corporate side? Because, one thing I see, and I know you do, is that so much of this change gets bogged down because of cultural reasons. I'm just say cultural. I was in a meeting earlier, and the guy who was speaking said, "No, it's all political. It's all I'm basically a really good politician. That's how I get things done." But whatever word you want to use, oftentimes the catch here really isn't what the technology can do or how efficient it can make things. It's getting it implemented and adopted.
Yes.
And so how do you do it? Because Pega deals with some of the largest organizations in the world, which to me means some of the most complex, call them architectures.
Yep.
Political architectures in the world. So what's the secret sauce?
That is such a good question. And I think it really depends on the organization in terms of the secret sauce. But at a high level, you have to gain trust. And we're talking about control and trust and governance. And what I mean by that is whether or not you are doing a pilot program or something like that, really getting people to experience the technology and understand how it's going to improve their days. So really being able to provide a system that is delivering insight and taking the burden away that has caused, employee turnover and all of these different things. One of my favorite new capabilities that we came out with a couple of years ago is our agent simulator tool. So even, before you're a Pega client, you can actually have this hands-on experience. And right now at Pega World, you can go into the Innovation Hub and try it yourself and engage like you are a customer service rep and basically simulate a customer experience and get to see how Pega has these AI capabilities and automation features that really save a huge amount of time, whether that's next best actions or auto form fill or interaction summaries. So really being able to bring that to life faster, I think, is so important. And really a key to kind of putting proof to the pudding, because there's so much noise in the market right now.
Yeah. We should have another conversation just on the noise in the market. you know, again, because this is kind of what I do for a living, but talking to so many technology providers out there, it seems like one of the universal challenges to getting a product sold in is boiling it down to a real direct ROI for the purchase. Like,
Yep.
you know, if you just take a super high level of what the C-suite's looking at, it's, you know, revenue, it's expenses, and it's risk. And if you can prove out on any one of those levels that you're going to prove things, it seems like the people that I have seen do this consistently successfully are all able to do that. And that was one of the things I saw when I was first introduced to the blueprint thing. It didn't show me ROI. Then there's no number at the end of it, but it was an absolutely eye-opening experience to see the time savings and the beautiful effectiveness and complexity. I'm probably not saying that right, but you know, it could build these beautifully constructed, thought out campaigns that are almost not humanly possible to develop. And it could do so at scale, super quick. I mean, you know, I didn't see a number at the end of the equation, but I absolutely saw improvement. So that seems like an easy one. Is that kind of what you're seeing as you present that kind of system to the C-suite?
Yes,
Same thing.
absolutely. And, you know, events like this are so important as well, bringing together clients and partners where they are telling their stories and sharing their insights. I think that that's so important as well. You know, we do cater to the largest enterprises in the world. And, you know, just over, you know, the past day, I've seen so many great interactions between different clients and the melding of ideas, and things like our client advisory board are really important for that. I think that having that peer support is a big piece as well.
I want to change the direction of this conversation ever so slightly and ask you, because I think you're in a fairly unique position. You work with a big organization that's doing some cutting edge stuff, and you're dealing with some of the world's largest organizations. So you probably have a perspective that not many people do. Having said that, what do you think this is going to look like in, say, a year? The idea of agentic AI, because a year is nothing right now, but you know, a year or 2 years. Look ahead. What do you see?
I think you're going to see more and more AI and automation take over the tasks that you have seen customer service reps do. But I think that is going to take time. I think in 5 to 7 years, you are going to see a massive transformation in terms of what a contact center looks like. And the reality is that there are going to be less contact center agents. That doesn't mean that they're not important. They're going to have vastly different roles. There's going to be a whole set of new skills that's going to be needed to kind of manage heightened customer expectations, because those are going to continue to escalate as well, and manage emotional intelligence. And I don't think that any sort of AI is ever really going to be able to fully replace that. It will augment the customer service rep experience and maybe make you more reactive, so you know exactly where that customer is in their customer journey. But I still think that sometimes in certain situations, you need that human touch. You want to actually have a conversation. But for the ones that are kind of tedious, where you just want to get something done, I want to, you know, change my airline ticket, I don't want to talk to somebody. That is going to become more and more automated. And we're hearing that from clients and from C-suites where they are expecting that there's going to be shifts in the contact center. So I really see an autonomous future.
Wow. Okay. You heard it here. Maybe not first, but you heard it here from credibility. How about that?
Yes.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for the time and for your opinions and insights, and for inviting me out to Pega World.
Thank you. Really happy to meet you, and this has been a great conversation.
Sure. And look, if there's other stuff we want to talk about, we can still add that on. So if we've got any other topics you want to hit, we can still do that.
Let's see, what else? Well, you were talking about empathy.
Empathy is hard.
Yeah.
It's like AI's gotten so much better. The LLMs have gotten so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people are also getting more attuned to what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
And authenticity is becoming like, for certain brands, authenticity is just like critical. If you're caught faking it, or even the appearance of faking it, you're doomed. So you prompted me, now you answer it. Sorry, I don't have an answer. I just have questions.
I don't know if I have an answer to that. Yeah, I mean, it is so important. And just kind of talking about the future, I mean, even myself personally, I have reservations about AI myself. Like, I expect, a certain level of personalization and, and authenticity, like you said. So, what I think is really nice about working for a big company like Pega is also having that other side, which I think that you've talked to a lot of my colleagues around Customer Decision Hub and the one-to-one customer engagement that, also was kind of a factor that made me really interested in working at Pega. It's a completely different approach than these, batch marketing campaigns where you're actually able to, not only market to that customer, but if, it's not the right time, actually hold back a message. And I think that that's really important. So I think that going forward, customer service as well as that one-to-one customer engagement is going to continue to meld and be more and more important.